Good day, everyone. For today, I'll be discussing my favorite poet and a little analysis of one of his famous poem. So here is my favorite Afro-Asian poet as part of my requirements or as part of our requirements in our class English 107, which is Afro-Asian literature. Okay, so let's proceed. So my favorite poet is Wole Soyinka. So let's first get to know the author or the poet, and before we proceed to the poem analysis of of the poet. Okay, so first let's discuss the life of Wole Soyinka. Okay, so he is a Nigerian playwright, novelist, poet, and essayist in the English language. So he was awarded the 1986 Nobel Prize in Literature, and he was the first sub-Saharan African to be honored in this category. So he is best known as a playwright. Alongside his literary career, he has also worked as an actor and in theaters in Nigeria and Great Britain. So his works also include poetry, novels, and essays. So the Wole Soyinka has produced many literary works, and this includes scripts of playwrights, novels, essays, and poems. So this is Mr. Wole Soyinka. So he is also an outspoken opponent of oppression and tyranny worldwide and a critic of the political situation in Nigeria. Soyinka has lived in exile on several occasions. So first was during the Nigerian Civil War in the 1960s. He was held as a prisoner in a solitary confinement after being charged with conspiring with the Biafran. So he was first exiled to a solitary confinement, where he was charged of being conspiring with the Biafrans, or maybe the opponent of the Nigerian of the Great Britain. Okay, so next is in 1997, he was again in exile. He was tried for, convicted of, and sentenced to death for anti-military activities, a sentence that was later lifted. So because he is somewhat have the same situation with Jose Rizal, wherein he expresses his thoughts of the government, of life, uh, about through his poem, his novel. So he writes what he feels. So and that led him to being a one of the target of the government. So that's why he was sent to exile, or he was also sent to solitary confinement. So he, despite those, after that, later on in his life, he was able to teach in numerous schools, universities worldwide. So examples of these are the Ivy University, Cambridge University, Yale University, and the Emory University. So now let's proceed to a list of his famous poems. So first is I hate a wasted journey. I am African. The child before a mirror of strangers. Telephone conversation. Identity and Other Poems in 1967, Poems from Prison in 1969, Ogin Abibman 1976, Mandela's Earth and Other Poems 1988, Selected Poems 2001, and Live Burial. So the poem that I have chosen to have an analysis of being authored by Wole Soyinka is Hamlet. So we can easily think that this is somewhat related to William Shakespeare's Hamlet, but no, in a sense that this has for me it has a different interpretation of the the how the background of the poem is different from how the Hamlet of William Shakespeare was written. But Wole Soyinka was a great fan of the work of William Shakespeare, and maybe uh, we don't know, maybe he was able to associate Hamlet, his poem Hamlet, to the Hamlet of William Shakespeare. Okay, so we will now start analyzing the poem Hamlet by Wole Soyinka. Okay, so but before that, let's first discuss difficult words that we may encounter while discussing the poem. So first is rack. So a rack is a framework typically with rails, bars, hooks, or pegs for holding or storing things. Next is dosed. It is to pour a liquid over. Next is embowel, to bury or embed deeply. Next is slate, a flat piece of slate used for writing on. Last is envenom, which is to poison on, put poison on or into. So this is now the poem. So let's read the poem Hamlet by Wole Soyinka. He stilled his doubts, they rose to hold and lay a resolution on the rapt passion's flame. It was those in fear of error, his mind's unease, bred indulgence to the state's disease. Ghosts emboweled his earth, he clung to rails in a gallery of abstraction dissecting tales. As told by an idiot, passionless he set a stage. Of passion for the guilt he would engage, justice despaired the turn and turn abouts of reason danced default to duty's counterpoint, till treachery scratched the slate of primal clay, then metaphysics waved a thought's delay. It took the salt in the wound, the point, and venom to steal the prince of the. So that is the whole poem of Wole Soyinka, which is Hamlet. Okay, so let's proceed to analyzing the poem. So let's first start with the elements of the poem. So the form is the poem has three stanzas. The first and second stanzas has 4 lines apiece, while the third stanza has 6 lines. So the meter is, it is a iambic pentameter since each line contains 10 syllables and it is alternately as unstressed, then a stress, then an unstressed, then unstressed, and so on. So the rhyme scheme is A B B C C D D E F G G F E. So the tone is that the author wanted to emphasis of how infectious racial discrimination is. So we all know a little fact about Wole Soyinka. While he was in prison, so when he was in prison, he was able to write a collection of poems, and he titled it um, "The Life in Prison." So he wrote that, and he was able to compile it, and those poems were all about um the first. It also includes his experience in jail. Next is that he was able his experience of racial discrimination because of his color. Next is um the way he see things, the way he see the government during the time. So the next, so next is mood. So the author wanted to emphasize of never to lose hope and to not let discrimination put you down and to lose hope. So the mood is kinda like he wanted the mood is um he wanted to be able to express himself. He wanted to have that freedom. He wanted to have that freedom of and that equality among others. So there is really power in the poem, and I guess that would really um tell us of how the poem is has that great purpose. He wanted to he wanted to tell through the poem his experience in prison, and that the abuse, that mental health, and the mental health he is having he is having because of those racial discrimination, and um, while he was in prison. So he he thinks that while he was in prison, his mental state is degrading. He thinks that he is becoming crazy. He is losing that he is losing hope. He is losing that fire to live. He is losing that and we can really tell it through the poem that um he is really struggling while he was in jail. Okay, so the speaker of the poem is, of course, he is tired of the abuse and discrimination he has been getting while he was while he is in prison. He keeps himself motivated by keeping that positivity and to not lose the fight against fear and sadness. So the setting is in a prison camp, or maybe he has been locked away in a settlement or in a camp. So now let's proceed with analyzing symbolisms that I have encountered while reading the poem. So symbolisms are rock, state disease, ghost, rails, dance, metaphysics. So rock. So first is rock. So for me, um, the rock there is willing. He's trying his best to hold on to that maybe his future, his family. So the rock can be considered as his family, his future, his friends, and he is holding on to them. He is thinking of them. Maybe that is the reason why he is trying his best to not um lose the fight, to not lose that hope he has inside. So next is state's disease. So the state disease is we can incorporate it to how the the Britain authority treat treated Wole Soyinka while he was in prison. So he was never treated he was never treated good. He was being abused. He was being discriminated because of his color. So during the time, racial discrimination is still present. It is strongly present during the time of Boris Soyinka when there was the war, and this adds to his feeling of sadness, of fear, of fear, what will happen to him in the future, what will happen to him uh, here, if ever he will live, if ever he will survive the abuse that he has been getting in the prison. The next is ghost. So the ghost there, I could incorporate it to his state of being, state of mind. So that ghost there is maybe his way of saying that um, now the words that I have been receiving, the abuses that I have been receiving is like a ghost because of the pain, because of the pain that he have been receiving, because of the too much pain. Maybe he felt like he was a ghost, he was dead. So that, I guess, is um the the thing of where went to that point that he thinks that he has no hope, um can never live he can never leave the prison, or up until the day of his death he will die in um the prison. So maybe that's how he felt, that he was a ghost, that he was no one, he had no feeling anymore, um, that and he will only live as a memory to his family or friends. So next is rails. So another is, we can relate it to the rock. So the rails there maybe is, even though he got to the point that he wanted to surrender, he felt like he was no one anymore, he was like a ghost that he can bear pain, he can no more feel that feeling of pain, that sadness, or that. So maybe he was holding on to those, like that. His family, his his the people that wanted him, loved him, or the people that he cared, or that cared for him. So he is holding on to that thought of not to give up, because there are people waiting for me after, if ever I survive, if ever I get out from this prison. So next is dance. So I guess what he is feeling, he is like dancing, the way the people, the way how his life turned out is like dancing. Because if we talk about dancing, it's like there are many actions, many steps in a certain dance. So maybe he felt like maybe there's an end point to this. There is, the dance will stop as the music stops, but I guess I should dance with how my life is today, how my life. And I guess, like, he was thinking that, like a dance, there will be a next step, next 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 step for after this. So he was thinking like, he he hold on to that thought of that maybe after in prison I'll be able to survive, and then start a new life, create use my life story to inspire other people. So he was thinking that his life was like dancing, that there is a next step that will happen after being in that prison. So next is metaphysics. So we can incorporate this to the way he is now thinking. Maybe he thinks that his mental state is degrading when he was in prison. Maybe those abuses that he has been getting from the Britain authority is that caused him to lose, to be crazy. Maybe he went to the point that he was crazy, right? And I guess the importance of this poem is that it talks about how we should not judge other people based on their color. And I know it's very, you can still see that up to this day, that discrimination is really prevailing in our community. Discrimination do not only talks about discrimination of color. Sometimes as a teacher, there are teachers that would discriminate their learners because some are slow learner or like that. Then some would, so there are also instances that we discriminate people because of their social status, because they are poor, they're not able to um go to school, they were not able to find job, and we easily judge those people, and that's somewhat kind of discrimination, because as a person we should not discriminate on other people. We should learn from the people in the past, like the author Wole Soyinka, that he has been discriminated. He was able to experience that mental abuse, not only mental abuse, but physical abuse. He was able to, and maybe in the past, what caused the war was one element to cause the war is, of course, discrimination. And if if we just learn to accept people as they are, we should embrace them. We should embrace the diversity of every individual that surrounds us. And that would be the start of unity, respect, love. And I should I think that the poem Hamlet by Wole Soyinka really give us that strong, that tells us to minimize or try to embrace the diversity that people in the community has. That we should not bully them because of their color, because of their social status, but instead that love, let's love them because of their differences. We should love every people in the community because of our differences. We should be able to strive hard, and the central point of the poem is racial discrimination, and I guess that is not embracing diversity. And today, I guess the important thing is that we're able to embrace diversity so that we may be able to connect with other people. We may be able to create more connections, make more networks, wherein we'll be able to grow as a community, grow as an individual, of course. And that's how the main point there is that he was able to experience that. He was easily judged. He was easily judged to be exiled, to be put in a prison camp because of his color. And I guess that's the point there, that we should not be discriminating to other people. We should not discriminate, for us to be able to have a more united community, a more united country. Like in the Philippines, we are different. We have different cultures. We have different beliefs. And I guess that is one way of uniting everyone, um, pulling out those discriminating claims, and have that we embrace other individuals diversity, differences, culture, beliefs, and so we may be able to be united, we may be able to grow as a community. And that would be all. Thank you.